The America's Cup Finals in the waters off Fremantle, Australia. The American Yacht Stars and Stripes defeating the Australian Kookaburra 3 for a 3-0 lead in the best-of-7 series. After a dead-even start, Stars and Stripes, skippered by Dennis Conner, lengthened its lead at almost every mark. The Australians had problems with their mainsail and a bomb threat before deciding to continue on. In the end, it was the largest margin of victory for Stars and Stripes, 1 minute 45 seconds. Dennis Conner was at the helm when the U.S. lost the Cup to the Australians in 1983. He is now one race from bringing the America's Cup back home.
Looking real good. And back here at home, there is a group in Westchester County watching the progress of the America's Cup races with special interest. Corey McPHERRIN right here now with that story. They're looking great out there. Going to win.
They're looking good, and the people up in Westchester County are pretty excited about it. We're talking about these shipbuilders who put the Stars and Stripes together. Obviously, Dennis Conner, his crew deserve a whole lot of credit, but if not for that magnificent yacht, they would be dead in the water.
The victory will be achieved in the rough waters off the coast of Fremantle, Australia. But the basis for recapturing the Cup might have been accomplished last spring at a shipyard in Mamaroneck, New York. Robert E. Director Yacht Builders. It's here where the ideas, the plans, the innovations all took form, from the blueprints to the finished product. A revolutionary welding process and a unique framing system have made for a stiffer boat, which may be the key to Conner's success.
A stiffer hull is known to be a quicker hull. I think this is a big advantage to Dennis down there in Australia and also to our construction.
And you knew we'd have to go up against some pretty rough waters. I guess that had to go into the thinking as to how you put this thing together, right?
Exactly, and I think that's another reason Dennis came to us. We build a very strong boat.
Normally, a 12-meter boat like Stars and Stripes would take about 120 days to construct. But the folks here at Director only had 86 days to get the job done. And that meant 15-hour workdays, 7 days a week. Believe it or not, this is Stars and Stripes, at least an early version. And here she is again, being hoisted away to begin her long journey. For the workers here, it's a love affair that's only growing stronger. Does that give you a lot of satisfaction to see what Stars and Stripes is doing over there in Australia?
Oh, sure, I believe so. I like he's going to win the race and bring the American Cup back to the United States.
Where it belongs, right?
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Where it belongs is right, and I'll tell you what, a lot of the workers look a little sleepy up there. They've been up real late at night trying to take in all the action on ESPN, but they're very excited. They're going to celebrate in a couple days.
Bring home the Cup.
Thank you, Corey. Time now for us to check on some of the stories that we're working on for the 6 o'clock edition of Eyewitness News. For that, we go to Bill Beutel in the Eyewitness Newsroom. Bill.
Thank you, Roz. Tonight on Eyewitness News at 6, a town on Long Island is afraid. An elderly man was found beaten nearly to death in his apartment, and there may be a connection to the murder of a young yeshiva student only a few blocks away. Also tonight, the case of the surrogate mother who changed her mind is back in court. And the father of the child was near tears on the stand today. In Brooklyn, a young girl is dead. She was shot by a friend, and they may have been playing with a loaded gun. We'll have those stories, plus a minivan that could make a big difference to Tarrytown. We've learned the GM plant near there is about to get a major job. And the Metropolitan Museum of Art is about to get a new look, a modern look. We have a preview of the grand opening of a new wing at the museum. We'll have those stories, and we'll have more on Eyewitness News at 6. Roz and Ernie.
All right, thank you, Bill. When we come back, which warranty is better, GM's, Chryslers, or Ford's? We'll have a report coming up next on Eyewitness News. The war between the major U.S. car manufacturers has heated up as they each seek ways and means to entice the American car-buying public. Rolonda Watts tells us it's now Chrysler's turn for one-upsmanship.
The Chrysler Corporation has now recaptured its lead in the car maker's warranty war. Leaving General Motors and Ford in the dust, Chrysler has now upgraded its warranties to 7 years and 70,000 miles on powertrains, 7 years and 100,000 miles for corrosion.
It's your engine, your transmission, and rear-wheel drive are covered for that period of time, 7 years or 70,000 miles, whichever comes first.
They like it. That's all I can say to you. They're you know, I think they're excited about it, and I think we'll have a very good you know, winter and a good spring.
Now, do you think the other domestics will follow you?
Of course, they always do.
It was just 2 weeks ago that General Motors boosted its powertrain warranties to 6 years, 60,000 miles, and 6 years, 100,000 miles for corrosion of its American-built cars. Chrysler, which boasted about its 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty for several years, had to suddenly revamp in hopes of beating the competition. Now, of course, Lee Iacocca and other American automakers believe that the best way to draw the American public into showrooms like these is by offering them incentives they cannot refuse, and that may be the case for many consumers. But for some of the ones we caught up with here today, it wasn't that incentive that got them here. It was that American label.
This is my country. Why shouldn't I buy American? I think if I buy American, that keeps another American working.
You don't see any problem with the quality of American cars?
I have no problems. No. I drive 25-something years American cars. I have no problems.
American auto sales were down 38.4% from a year ago. With depressed sales by all the big three American automakers, the incentive war will surely continue. Chrysler, Ford, and General Motors all vying to keep the American dollar at home. In Paramus, New Jersey, I'm Rolonda Watts for Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And turning from cars to cooking, there is something special on the menu for Chauncey Howell. How about a chef whose specialty is not only good food, but good music? Chauncey joins us now to tell us all about it.
Ma certo. Khrushchev, you remember him? Khrushchev? He once said that all Italy ever produced was spaghetti and tenors. Que porco miseria, stupido cretino. And that's as dumb as saying that all Russia ever produced was borscht and pogroms. But spaghetti and tenors, that is a kind of nice combination. A wonderful, che bella combinazione. So buon appetito.
Mare luccica, nastro d'argento.
No. Let's eat first, sing later. Looks good, doesn't it? It's costata di manzo, that's prime rib steak, and it's a specialty of Chef Claudio Scaduto at Mama Leone's. Another specialty is, if you haven't noticed already, oh yes, not all chefs have accompanists like Bill Goffey. Yes, a little red wine helps too. Yes, Chef Claudio Scaduto's other specialty is, you guessed it, singing.
Huh? Kiffa, I know how you feel. It's the squillo. That's the Italian word for squeal or peel that goes so well with the scungil. It's in the voice, la voce.
Scungil. No, that's calamari. And statues. There are lots of statues here at Mama Leone's. Pensive nymphs, antique philosophers, former waiters. It's so atmospheric. The place fairly vibrates with vibrato. Claudio has a vibrato to match his squillo, and it's all self-taught. He learned from listening to records of other tenors like Mario Del Monaco while he was growing up in Nice and learning to cook. And he's got a mezza voce that is not mezza mezz. It's meraviglioso. It's marvelous.
So you chose Vitello over Verdi, Veal over Verdi.
To make a career as an opera singer, you have to study a lot, not only the voice.
Mortadella. Mortadella bella.
Mortadella bella bella.
He's a fantastic chef. Everything is beautiful. What's his best aria? Nessun dorma.
Nessun Dorma from Turandot, the big Puccini Baffo aria that you've heard Pavarotti pig out on. Sorry, Mama, mi dispiace, I'll talk nice. Claudio. Now, Claudio favors some slightly nonplussed Belgian tourists, car dealers from Antwerp, with some tessitura on toast. Bravo, che squillo. Oh, you could almost feel that squeal, couldn't you? Reminded me of Lauri Volpi, Aureliano Pertile. I don't know whether those Belgians got all the Neapolitan nuance, the mortadella bella of this experience. They are truck dealers, it's true, and they're on vacation here, and they were very excited by the fact that tomorrow they're going to Allentown, PA, to visit the Mack truck factory. Wow. That's a big deal for Belgians. Mack
mortadella bella.
Isn't that great?
This was a special story. This was a special story for you, I know, because you love to speak Italian.
Yeah. like anything. Così Italiani.
You had a good time there.
Yes, I did. He's a wonderful singer. He does have a lot of squeal and
powerful voice.
Isn't bad, by the way, squillo in Italian.
No,
that means peel or squeal.
Mortadella bella.
It's a high ringing sound that good tenors have.
Grazie.
Altrettanto.
Signor Chauncey. Singing chef, and if a dog could sing, there's one dog who'd be crooning at the top of his lungs.
Coming up next on Eyewitness News, one lucky dog.
Well, finally, on the 5 o'clock Eyewitness News today, the story of an adoption.
David Novarro tells us how a dog that we introduced you to last week has gone from the chilly waters of the East River to the warmth of a new home.
His new owners have named him Rusty, and if he could talk, he'd probably have a great story to tell. It was just this past Friday when we reported on how 2 police officers had risked their lives by jumping into the frigid East River to save him. Seconds before, he almost went down for the count.
Today, going for a swim is the furthest thing on his mind. Thanks to his new owners, Rusty's getting the full treatment here at the New York School of Dog Grooming, and a well-deserved one, I might add.
I had seen most of the newscasts, so I knew that the police officers, and I'd still love to talk to them and really get the, the whole story. And I just figured it would be great to have them.
Chelsea residents Jody Schussler and her boyfriend Robert Miller are no strangers to adopting pets. They also have little Ollie here, and Lucky, who was also a stray that they took in. But Rusty is something special.
When I was crossing the street last night with my daughter, my daughter mentioned, this is the dog they found in the river, and the man's going, oh, bless you, it's so wonderful, it's like it'll come back to you, good things, for giving this dog a home.
The ASPCA gave Rusty's original owners 48 hours to claim him. They didn't feel he was abandoned, but because he was unlicensed, there was no way to contact the owners, so they put him up for adoption.
I think he is a country dog, and somebody either kidnapped him, and this is how he got down here. I mean, I'm not sure, but if the rightful owner does show up to take the dog, and they have, just cause why it took so long, and I guess I'd give the dog back.
But in the meantime, he's part of the family now.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So now Rusty has a new name, a new home, a new haircut, living the life of a celebrity. What's next? Hollywood? His own TV series? But we can only hope that it all doesn't go to his head. Reporting from Manhattan, this is David Novarro, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
We had quite a reaction to that story last week, and happy that Rusty has a new home tonight. Well, that's it for now. For Roz Abrams, Stormfield, Chauncey Howell, and the rest of the Eyewitness News team, I'm Ernie Anastos. Kaity Tong and I will see you tonight at 11.
The news continues now with Bill Beutel and John Johnson.
Thank you, Roz and Ernie. And next on Eyewitness News, a quiet neighborhood has been shaken by a brutal attack. An elderly man beaten almost to death. And the neighbors are afraid the attack could be connected to a murder just a few blocks away. And heartbreaking testimony in the hearing to decide who gets to keep baby M. The little girl's father today was near tears.
Also tonight, they're working on the railroad. After 2 long weeks, the Long Island trains are back on the track. And we've got word that GM has decided who'll get to build its new minivans. The contract everybody wanted is coming to New York. Those stories, Stormfield, and a groundhog with the forecast.
Next on Eyewitness News.
You're watching Channel 7 Eyewitness News with Bill Beutel and John Johnson. Eli Zaret has sports. Stormfield with weather, and the Eyewitness News team. Now, Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Bill Beutel. Long Beach, Long Island is looking over its shoulder tonight because a man in his 60s has been beaten. He's in critical condition. Bad enough if it stands alone, but only a few months ago and only a few blocks away, a young man was bludgeoned and killed in Long Beach, and the worry is that someone is stalking the people of Long Beach. Larry Mendte has a report.
It happened again in Long Beach. 2 weeks ago, in the middle of the night, someone broke into the apartment of 64-year-old Joseph Meade and almost beat him to death. The former telephone worker is now in intensive care at Long Beach Memorial Hospital, his skull fractured in several places. Police do not have a motive or suspect in that case, just as they still do not have a motive or suspect in the murder of Chaim Weiss. 2 months ago, someone broke into the students' dormitory room at the Long Beach Yeshiva for Orthodox Jews and beat the 16-year-old to death. 2 beatings, just 2 months and 6 blocks apart. Investigators can't ignore the possibility.
If the Meade case and the Weiss case are related, would that help or hurt your investigation?
Unfortunately, I would have to say it helps because it means that the assailant is still loose and still continuing his attacks. They are motiveless as far as we can determine and random.
Nassau County investigators say if they are dealing with someone breaking into homes randomly and beating people, then they have to establish a pattern. Unfortunately, they can't do that with only 2 cases. They have to wait for this person to strike again. That's not a comforting thought for the people in Long Beach.
I cry at night. My daughter cries at night. You can't, what can you do? You can't really do nothing about it. Nobody comes by anymore. You have no visitors because they're afraid to come into your area.
I'm petrified. I don't even want to live here. I'm going to be moving soon now.
And so police wait, and the town braces itself. Reporting from Long Beach, Long Island, Larry Mendte, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
The Nassau County Police ask that you call them if you have any information at all, that might help them in their investigation of the beatings in Long Beach. John?
A setback in court today for the surrogate mother who's trying to reclaim the infant she bore for a childless couple. And dramatic and emotional testimony from the father of baby M pleading to keep his child. New Jersey Bureau Chief Tim Fleischer was in the courtroom. Tim.
It was a very big day in this custody trial, J.J. There was at first that surprise recommendation by one attorney, and then late this afternoon there was the emotional testimony of baby M's father. Like any other proud father, William Stern testified today at great length about baby M, known to he and his wife as Melissa. At times, his words were choked with tears. She is the most important person in my life, he said. Then, unable to hold back, he cried, "When I hold her and she grabs my shirt, I feel so special. It makes me feel so worthwhile. I take a lot of pride in her."
I know before, whenever I talk about her, I always have a big smile on my face, but all of a sudden, the emotional impact. All right.
This portion of the trial will deal with the question of custody, and already there came the startling recommendation from Lorraine Abrams, baby M's court-appointed guardian, that William and Elizabeth Stern should be given custody and no joint visitation rights for surrogate mother Mary Beth Whitehead. She told the court 3 noted sociologists will be called and will testify to that conclusion. The paramount concern, she concluded, is that she, baby M, is the winner. Tomorrow on the stand, Elizabeth Stern is expected to testify. She, too, has very strong feelings for baby M, or Melissa, as she calls them, and her testimony is expected to be equally as emotional. Reporting live from Superior Court in Hackensack, I'm Tim Fleischer, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Bill?
Okay, Tim, thank you very much. The Long Island Railroad is back as we begin this week of work, back for a 60-day cooling-off period under federal law. The unions might go out again when that 60 days is over, but for today, the trains are back and the commuting is easy. More or less. Long Island Bureau Chief Vince Liparri reports.
The 721 Express from Babylon pulled into the station right on schedule this morning. While the Long Island Railroad has taken its share of criticism over the years, commuters were sure glad to see it back.
It's much better, saving me 2 hours a day.
The last 2 weeks were horrible, I think. Although a lot of people did pretty well getting around, but this is a lot easier.
Feels great to be back. No, there's no place like home.
5 unions have yet to settle. They'll be working with the National Mediation Board for the next 60 days. If they cannot come to a settlement, Congress may arbitrate one or allow the unions to strike once again.
I've gone through it before. They had a longer one, a much longer one, about 50 days, I think, and I survived that, so you survive it.
There were no problems on the 721 this morning. It arrived at Penn Station in about an hour. The riders seem refreshed and ready to go to work. While commuters were certainly inconvenienced during the 2-week-old strike, businessmen here in the Penn Station concourse had their troubles too. Many of the store owners closed up during the strike. Penn Station seemed like a ghost town. Today, the sounds of business were heard once again.
Business had gone down 50%, and now, of course, happy to see it's going back to where it should be.
One store owner expressed a personal note to his customers. I like your sign.
We missed you. That's right. We really did. But like I said, maybe we're back in business again.
At Penn Station, Vince Liparri, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
One very bad accident today as the Long Island Railroad got going again. One of its locomotives hit and killed a young woman walking at a railroad crossing at Rust and Masbeth Avenues in Queens about 8 o'clock this morning. She has not yet been publicly identified.
Was it drug-related? Police are now speculating that a Brooklyn couple found last night in their home with their hands bound behind their backs and shot in the head were the victims of a possible drug execution. 53-year-old Edith Urbano and her 36-year-old husband Cecil were found in their ransacked apartment after a neighbor called police. Neighbors in the Brooklyn apartment building told police that they believed the Urbanos were drug abusers. They say they were horsing around, but 16-year-old Crystal McRae is dead. The police have charged 2 of Crystal's friends in the shooting death. Art McFarland has mourned the girl who died from a single gunshot wound to the chest in what may have been a deadly game.
The tragic shooting happened at this housing project on Livonia Avenue in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, where today the family and friends of 16-year-old Crystal McRae gathered to comfort each other and to mourn her death. The family member taking it best is 7-year-old Naja McRae, who was there when her older sister was fatally shot.
She was doing my hair, and then I heard a gunshot, and she hollered one time, and she fell on her bed. And then I came up, I ran to my friend's house, and that's it. And the boy who shot her, he ran out the house.
He seemed like to be a nice boy. I ain't know they had no gun. I don't know if he shot her accidentally or what.
The teenager accused in the shooting is identified as 17-year-old Ephraim Johnson, said to be a friend of the victims. Authorities say the gun involved was purchased in North Carolina and belonged to another youth who is also charged in connection with the incident. The Office of Brooklyn District Attorney Elizabeth Holtzman is prosecuting the case.
This is a perfect example of the problem of illegal handguns, the failure of the federal government to stamp down on interstate transportation of guns.
The man accused of doing the shooting will face several charges, including second-degree murder. The man who owned the gun will also face weapons possession charges. And another family is left stricken with grief, all due to the reckless use of an illegal handgun. In Brooklyn, Art McFarland, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
The district attorney says the case will go before a grand jury. Bill.
A much happier story now. GM's new minivan is causing maxi joy in northern Westchester County because General Motors says it will build its new all-purpose van at its plant in North Tarrytown. That means jobs. And that means Kaity Tong is live right now in Tarrytown. Kaity, good evening. What's happening up there?
Hi, Bill. Well, as you know, this GM plant in North Tarrytown has certainly seen its share of ups and downs over the years. Now, we're between shifts right now, so we haven't had a chance to talk to many GM workers, but I can tell you this. About 3,500 hourly workers are employed here. They build Pontiac 6000s and Buick Centuries, and almost all of them already know about the news of the new contract, even though the official announcement will not be made until tomorrow morning, when Governor Cuomo and the president of GM come here personally to deliver the news to the workers. Now, this plant won out over 3 other GM plants for the contract to build the van, GM's first front-drive minivan. The president of the United Auto Workers Local 664, which represents the plant's workers, says it's good news that without this replacement model for the cars, it now makes the plant would close forever. But not everyone is happy about the news. Many are skeptical. Brother is a welder, is that right?
That's correct.
Which means what when this new van comes in?
He'll probably get laid off again.
Why?
Because they don't have as many jobs for welders, because it's fiberglass body. So they won't be needing as many welders.
Okay, here's a picture of the new minivan set to debut in 1989. It uses plastic body panels, as you heard, of glass, reinforced polyester, and steel. And as I said, is the first front-drive minivan built by GM. Now, what you have to remember is that these people here have worked with the threat of layoffs and plant closings hanging over them off and on for years, so they're cautious. In fact, as you might remember, GM recently announced a plan to close 9 assembly plants between next year and 1989, which will affect 30,000 workers. And what the workers here are hoping for, of course, is that this new van is going to keep them off the hit list, at least for the immediate future. I'm Kaity Tong reporting from North Tarrytown. Now back to you, John, in the studio.
Thank you, Kaity. There's much more ahead on Eyewitnesses when we come back. A little boy trapped underwater for nearly 20 minutes. He is alive because of a courageous cop.
Also ahead, the National Guard is called in to help out a town without water. And a bit later on, the Metropolitan Museum opens its doors to the 20th century in a moment.
7-year-old Dylan Riley is clinging to life tonight at the Jersey Shore Medical Center. Dylan and his 6-year-old friend Christopher Monahan fell through the ice of Deal Lake in Ocean Township, New Jersey, late yesterday. Dylan was underwater for 20 minutes. Jim Dolan has more.
Love you.
Here, guy.
When Christopher Monahan's mom kisses him from now on, it will mean something more than just a day ago. Yesterday, she almost lost him.
Dylan just said, why don't we go on the ice? And then we went on the ice and then we both fell through.
What was it like being in the water?
Cold.
Cold? What were you doing while you were in there?
Trying to swim.
Were you screaming for help?
Yes.
This is the hole in the ice Christopher fell through, along with his friend Dylan Riley. Dylan floated beneath the ice, and when Christopher's older brother came along moments after the accident, he dove in for Christopher.
I didn't know Dylan was in there until someone told me. My friend RJ told me. So I ran out, and the cop grabbed me so I couldn't go in.
The police waited for trained diver Sergeant Dana Parcells to arrive. When he did, the sergeant went to work.
How long did it take you to find him?
Approximately 5 minutes. I started and tried to work in a logical fashion from...
Dylan is in critical condition today. The cold water which nearly killed him may have saved him by lowering his body temperature and inducing hypothermia. Police will step up their efforts to try to keep kids off of the ice, but they say so far public relations efforts haven't really helped. Maybe a tragedy like this will. Did you learn a lesson yesterday?
Yes.
What was that?
Not to go on the ice.
Jim Dolan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
7-year-old Dylan Riley is still in critical condition tonight.
The poet's idea of a drought is water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. But in Sloatsburg in Rockland County, no water, no poetry. 3,400 people, a major water main is broken. 3 days of dripping, and today, not even a drip. They try to fix it. So far, no success. And it's hard to shave, hard to cook, hard to make a living, hard to do the housework.
It's just weird. You can't do anything. You just sit there. You can't wash dishes, you can't wash clothes, nothing.
The National Guard has come to the rescue of Sloatsburg, kind of. Truckloads of water, stand in line, take some water home to shave, and hope they find and fix the broken main in the hills outside town. John.
Okay, following that story, us consumers, we need some good news. Susie Gharib with Business Day. Do you have any good news?
I have it for you,
Okay.
John. We might be in for some cheaper telephone bills and for more service, a lot of it. The Justice Department recommended to a federal court today that the Baby Bell telephone companies, and NYNEX is included, be given more freedom to expand. If they get the go-ahead, they'll be able to manufacture telephones and for the first time get into the long-distance telephone business. Charles Schwab is a happy man today. He's buying back the discount brokerage company that he sold to Bank of America 4 years ago. But he's paying $140 million more than what he sold it for. Thousands of steel workers went back to work today for the first time in 6 months. The new contract with USX cuts their pay but improves their benefits and ends the longest strike in the history of the steel industry. Wall Street started off with a new month and a new record, and analysts tell me that the trend for the stock market is still one way. It's up. The new record is 2179. It was up 21 points for the day, and volume 177 million shares. Now, one thing that happens when the stock market is hot is that privately held companies see this as a great time to take their companies public. And Cranes reports today that Anchor Savings Bank here in the New York area is one of them. Its stock goes on sale this spring. This is the first time ever. And the price, $9 to $12 a share.
Simply one question. Is it not unusual for a savings bank to think about going public? It's not GM, after all. Why would they do it? To get more capitalization?
They want more capital, and Anchor Savings in this case is looking for $200 million. It's a good time to do it, and that means they can lend out more money.
It's already the fourth largest bank.
Fourth largest bank in our area. It's a $7 billion bank. I didn't realize it was that big until I'd done the story.
Neither did I. They're Anchor Banker. Thanks very much, Susan. When we come back, Stormfield with two forecasts, his forecast and a Groundhog's forecast.
Yeah, I like that. And Eli Zard with the sports, the plays of the weekend, and the cup runneth over, you know where, down under.
1,300 pounds of beef on the hoof is rumbling toward Trenton, New Jersey. It's a Black Angus steer, and it's Colorado's way of paying up a bet between Governor Roy Romer of Colorado, who had no choice but to choose the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl, and Governor Tom Kean of New Jersey, who was lucky enough to choose the Giants. Governor Romo bet the ranch, or at least one of the steers who lived there. The Black Angus will get to Trenton on Friday, and with any luck, he'll be more than a stake in the future.
That's too bad. Eli Zarrett now on the Indian Ocean.
Yes, you know, Connor was the first guy, Dennis Connor, to lose the America's Cup after 132 years. Looks like he'll also be the first to win it back, as this is turning into a rout Stars and Stripes, the U.S. ship captained by Connor, has leapt to a 3-0 lead over Kookaburra 3. The Australian entry seems Connor's experience, more so than the boats themselves, has created the vast U.S. edge. Last night, after a tight start and first leg, Stars and Stripes poured it on for a 1:46 winning margin. Connor called for a lay day today because of light winds. In the meantime, maybe the Aussies can devise a method of stopping the soon-to-be new, but however cautious, champion.
We're going to remain scared to death until we get one more victory, and then we'll start counting our chicken.
And race 4, likely the last race, will be held at midnight tomorrow night. Well, the Rangers had a great weekend, winning at first place Philadelphia, then last night by a goal up in Boston. And just 29 seconds into the game, George McPhee and Nevin Marquardt got into a little face bashing. McPhee broke a knuckle, may miss 4 more weeks of an already injury-plagued campaign. This game was at the Garden, by the way. Prettiest play of the night, Pierre LaRouche, faking beautifully through the defense, will feed Ron Duguay, who easily beats Bill Ranford to make it 2-1 Rangers. LaRouche, meantime, had a 4-point night, including the hat trick. Here, after a drop pass from Kelly Kissio, he blisters one past Doug Keens to make it 5-1. They hold on to win it 5-4. Well, whether or not Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow on Groundhog Day, we've still got at least 6 weeks of net basketball to suffer through, and boy did they suffer last night. Great hustle here by Orlando Woolridge, saved it for Pearl Washington as this game would go into overtime. Washington finished with a career-high 29 in the first OT, had one of the best hoops in a game that saw many. Reverse layup, incredible. In the fourth overtime, Sleepy Floyd, who tied an NBA record with 64 minutes played, put him up 146-142, but with 30 seconds left down for Leon Wood, who finished 1 for 9, blows the layup. Joe Barry Carroll, who finished with 24 rebounds and 43 points, gets it. Nets fall to an NBA worst 2-21 on the road. Well, the weekend featured a nice sampling of the bizarre and the humorous and even the sad, like in Hawaii. Vi Sikahema, a native, the NFC punt returner, getting 50 tickets for his friends in Hawaii, fumbled 3 punts in the worst performance of an 8 fumble NFC 10-6 loss. John Thompson, in a moment of despair, lets all 300 pounds, 6'11", flop to the floor. And the chicken was taken to the floor and tied up by the Houston Rockets, screaming foul throughout. In Athens, this is Sweden's Peter Sjöberg, jumping higher than any man in history, 7 feet 10 3/4 inches, quarter-inch better than the old mark. And finally, talk about some self-abuse. Red Wing coach Jacques Demers tells the ref he blows it, then takes his glasses off, throws him against the plexiglass. Oh, Jacques, not smart at all. Damaso Garcia, Blue Jay infielder and pitcher Louis Liao, traded to the Braves for righty Craig McMurtry. Possible good news for the Mets. All-star Lance Parrish has turned down an offer from the Phillies to catch for them. Nevada, Las Vegas, the new #1, as North Carolina lost to Notre Dame over the weekend.
I was going to ask you something about the America's Cup, but instead, after saying that NFL, the Pro Bowl game, I just, should they play that game? I mean,
it's true. It is an afterthought. The baseball All-Star game is the only one that comes in the middle of a season and really seems to have meaning. The players are just out there to really have a good time. It
no
is
one
an
wants to
afterthought.
get hurt or anything.
Right. They don't practice, and it obviously shows. And plus, it's so hard in football to work plays out for an offense to make a, like a game as good as a regular
I guess my question is, should they just do away with it?
I suppose, but I doubt you'll see that happen. It's part of tradition in football.
Tradition goes on. Tradition. Anyway, we've got Punxsutawney Phil. That's right. Punxsutawney Phil is the nation's #1 weather forecaster, #1 groundhog weather forecaster. Reluctantly, Punxsutawney Phil was pulled from his cage in Pennsylvania today. Seems he forgot he had some predicting to do. The crowd of anxious Punxsutawney Groundhog Club members who had gathered for the annual event booed old Phil when he saw his shadow, which means 6 more weeks of winter, at least according to legend. But alas, Dunkirk Dave, that's New York's most famous groundhog weather predictor, didn't see his shadow. What does it all mean? Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
What do they expect?
Right.
They pull the guy out of his cage.
Right.
They hold him up in the air, then they boo him, and then they want good news from him?
Yeah,
Forget it.
Can you imagine them doing
I know what
that
it's
to you?
like. We had our news director come down before, grab me out of my office, drag me down here, and say, give me some good weather.
Right.
Forget it.
This happens every night.
It's not going to happen. Well, almost every night, yeah. Not really every night. Once in a while.
Once in a while.
Do you like today?
I liked it.
How about you, Bill?
I thought it was a nice day. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I did okay. You know, not bad at all. Let's take a look at what we've got outside. Readings, not bad. Weather today, temperature getting up to a high of 50 degrees. Hey, that's all right for this time of year. Right now, 46, the humidity, 63%, barometric pressure rising, winds from the southwest 9 miles an hour. As I said, that high today getting all the way up to 50 degrees, low only 30. That combination normally should be 38 and 25, well above normal for this time of year. Fairly close to the record high, which was 58 in 1973, record low -3 in 1881. Air quality today good, tomorrow also good. Now, what we have to look at on the map today are clouds, lots of clouds. Not much to be avoided in there. We've got a warm front that's trying to come up from the south. You've got another frontal line, a cold front that's coming in from the north. The combination of these two moving right up the coast at us. By the time they get to us, they're going to give us plenty in the way of clouds, a little trough of unsettled weather. Possibility of maybe a sprinkle or two around tomorrow, but for the most part, it's just going to be cloudy. That's going to be the weather pattern. Then once we get by that, by the evening, the frontal line drives on through, the cold front takes control, clearing skies in the midsection of the country, cooler air makes its way in, slowly chills us down to back where we're supposed to be this time of year, which is 38 for a high and around 25 for a low. Next thing we have to worry about is back here on the west coast making its way in, but it really hasn't gone very far as yet and isn't expected to make much of an impression on us as high pressure builds in and protects us, almost forces us up and around us. So it looks like right through the end of this week, not much in the way of any activity. Sunshine is back and forth by Wednesday. So as far as the satellite picture goes, clearing skies that we have in here giving way to clouds moving in. Tomorrow's going to be a fairly overcast kind of day. Forecast right now looking like this. As far as we can say, it's going to become mostly cloudy tonight thanks to those two frontal lines moving in. It's going to be mild out this evening, the clouds keeping the warmth in. Temperatures about 38 tonight, which is a normal high for this time of year. Then for tomorrow, combination of clouds, mostly clouds, some sunshine, still mild, readings about 45. Long-range forecast looking for sunshine, 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 and temperatures cooling down a little bit to back where they're supposed to be this time of year, which I know always makes you smile.
And we'll smile. Okay, Storm, thank you. There's a new museum in town devoted to the art of the 20th century. Not really a new museum, but a very important addition to the most important museum we have, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. A big, beautiful new wing at the Met, the Lila Atchison Wallace Wing. Important competition for the Museum of Modern Art. Many American artists are shown. Andy Warhol's Mao Zedong, Alex Katz, Robert Rauschenberg, Jackson Pollock. Some work, too, from Europeans, Picasso, Paul Klee, Matisse. Paintings and sculpture, industrial design, the art and the artistic thinking that has added to and influenced the shape of the 20th century. It cost $26 million for the Met to take this step into this part of the world of modern art. To visit the Lila Atchison Wallace Wing is to take a tour through the important art of the 20th century. But why is the 20th century so important to the Met?
The Metropolitan has been involved with the art of its time since it was founded in 1870. It's always been involved with contemporary art.
The spaces in this new wing are incredibly impressive. The room we're in has incredibly high ceilings. Why so?
I thought it terribly important that sculpture, when it's indoors, have daylight on it. And if you look above, you see really even the New York skyline.
It's taken about 3 years and all those millions of dollars to build the Lila Atchison Wallace Wing at the Met. It opens to the public tomorrow.
Still ahead, getting a job at Disney World.
And the high price of liberty. Next.
3 Walt Disney talent scouts came to town today. They were looking for promising singers and dancers to take part in 8 musical productions staged at Epcot and Disney World. Waiting to go on may have been the toughest part for the 300 hopefuls who showed up at the Minskoff rehearsal studio, auditioning for 60 to 65 positions that will be filled this year. But the talent scouts did not fill all the openings today, so any of you out there who will be 18 by June 1st, there's still time to show up at Minskoff's tomorrow, male or female. Just bring your own music and your tryout clothes.
Finally, the price of liberty has gone up. Liberty has been with us for more than 100 years now. All that time, she's been a bargain. In fact, she's been free. Just take the ferry to Liberty Island, and there she is, big and majestic, and now, of course, rebuilt. But starting today, there's a price on Liberty's head. You now have to pay $1 to visit the statue in New York Harbor. Thomas Jefferson said eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Now it's eternal vigilance plus $1. That's our news tonight.
And that's it for now. I'm John Johnson. Have a good night.
I'm Bill Beutel. Thank you for being with us. Good luck. Be well. Stay tuned for the World News Tonight now with Peter Jennings.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. There is going to be a new director of the CIA, and the president is going to let congressional investigators look at his personal notes on the Iran affair. Given his illness, it had seemed only a matter of time before William Casey formally resigned. As the director of the CIA, he is still in the hospital after having had surgery for a cancerous brain tumor. We begin with our White House correspondent, Sam Donaldson.
Ever since Casey entered Georgetown Hospital with cancer of the brain, his departure from the CIA had been inevitable. But such is his longtime close association with Ronald Reagan, his resignation was engineered with great care and consideration. Last Thursday, White House Chief of Staff Reagan and Attorney General Meese went to the hospital and suggested to Casey it would be better if he stepped down. They offered him the post of presidential counselor at the White House just as soon as he's well enough to manage it. Today, the president accepted Casey's resignation with reluctance and deep regret and praised him for his 6 years of service. But on Capitol Hill, there was widespread relief that service is over.
But I think in Mr. Casey's tenure, we saw a turning inward of the CIA and a doubt arising on the Hill here about the credibility factor.
I think he understood the role of Congress. I don't think he appreciated the role of Congress.
Many on Capitol Hill who were particularly angered by the 73-year-old Casey's grudging and contradictory testimony in the Iranian arms sales matter were quick to applaud the man the president has chosen to succeed him. 43-year-old Robert Gates, the deputy director of the CIA since last April, a 20-year career intelligence officer and Soviet specialist, a man who is thought to be not so much in love with covert action as was Casey, and someone who has shown a willingness to work with Congress. The president himself took a step today to demonstrate his own willingness to work with Congress. It seems Mr. Reagan has kept personal notes on his daily activities, and today he promised to turn over relevant portions to investigators looking into the story of his Iranian arms sales. That, along with his selection of Gates to head the CIA, has made this one of those rare times in the last 3 months when Mr. Reagan has won more praise on Capitol Hill on any given day than criticism. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, the White House.
As director of the CIA for the better part of 6 years, William Casey had more of an impact on matters that most Americans are not aware of than almost any other member of the Reagan cabinet. We asked ABC's John Martin to review Casey's time as director.
Bill Casey reveres bold actions, and even his critics said today he had boldly restored the CIA in 2 critical areas.
A substantial increase in morale in the CIA and significantly boosting up the budgets in areas of intelligence gathering that I felt needed the boosting up.
When Casey took command of the CIA in 1981, the agency's covert operations branch had been cut back after scandals uncovered by the Church Committee in the 1970s. Now, with Casey pushing, the agency's budget more than doubled. Former CIA General Counsel Stanley Sporkin called Casey the Vince Lombardi of the intelligence world, a good coach who restored team pride. Sporkin, who is now a federal judge, said it was too early to judge the Iran and Contra affairs, but some critics aren't waiting.
But I am, frankly, very happy that he has resigned. I think it was certainly in the national interest for him to have resigned.
The critics point back to 1984 and the mining of Nicaraguan harbors, the distribution of a manual for assassinating Nicaraguan officials. Not forewarned, a leading senator erupted in despair.
I will resign as vice chairman of the committee.
Casey was director during an extraordinary series of spy cases, some involving the CIA itself. But one important nagging question is whether an attempt to save a CIA officer, hostage William Buckley, caused Casey to involve the agency in arms sales to Iran and later illegally use CIA bank accounts to fund the Contras in Nicaragua. At least one former CIA director refuses to absolve the president for the decisions Casey may have carried out.
He's a risk taker. He's a doer. He's not one who sits behind and wants to do as little as possible in order not to get into trouble. And therefore, he has walked up to the president and says, yes, sir, we will do it.
But it's the same attitude that leaves even Republicans concerned about the Casey legacy. A CIA once again ready to act, but a Congress so disaffected that it may block covert actions that need to be conducted. John Martin, ABC News, Washington.
Still in Washington, Pentagon officials today deny reports that anyone in the Defense Department either knew of or approved plans by an Oregon arms dealer to illegally sell more than $1 billion worth of arms to Iran last year. The arms dealer, Richard Brennecke, claims that Pentagon officials initially approved the deal and then changed their minds. Later in this broadcast, another new threat against American hostages in Lebanon. Richard Threlkeld on discrimination against AIDS patients. And the America's Cup. 3 down, 1 to go.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Western Union.
There are so many foreigners missing in the Middle East at the moment, more than 24, that it is becoming difficult for the average person to keep the various threats and demands in order. We did learn today that the Church of England has asked the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament for help in releasing the hostage negotiator Terry Waite, held somewhere in Lebanon. And we also heard another threat from those who are holding at least 2 Americans. ABC's Barry Dunsmore is in Damascus.
The pro-Iranian Islamic Jihad today sent this photograph of longtime U.S. hostage Terry Anderson to a news agency in Beirut, along with a statement containing the following threat. Any military attempt against the Muslims of the region, particularly in Lebanon, will result in the death of the captives. As well as Anderson, Islamic Jihad is believed to hold 55-year-old Thomas Sutherland. Anderson and Sutherland were the American hostages it was hoped might be released by the efforts of the Archbishop of Canterbury Special Envoy Terry Waite. But Waite is now widely reported to have been taken captive himself by the same Islamic Jihad. Here in Damascus, Druze leader Wally Jumblat, whose militia provided Waite's initial bodyguard, said again today he doesn't know where he is.
Have you any bad news concerning Waite or good news? No news.
Also in Damascus, the leader of the mainstream Amal Shiite militia, Nabi Berri, said he thinks Waite is no longer free.
What I know that he is arrested now.
Several sources have said that Waite is being kept in the Baalbek area of eastern Lebanon, a region which is controlled in part by Shiite extremists and Iranian Revolutionary Guards. A source close to the Iranian embassy in Damascus told ABC News that Waite will be held until assurances are received that the U.S. will not intervene militarily in Lebanon or against Iran in the Gulf War. However, one extremist leader, Hussein Massawi, told ABC News today that Waite was not there.
Terry Waite is not in the Bekaa. We are not involved in this matter.
Officially, Iran has claimed to know nothing of Waite, and last week the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Hashemi Rafsanjani, even offered to help find him. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Robert Runcie, has taken him up on the offer and has now officially asked for Rafsanjani's help in tracing Waite. A common thread in the various kidnappers' demands is the apparent deep-seated fear of a U.S. military intervention. Even Syria today expressed concern that the U.S. might use the hostage issue as a pretext to launch an attack against Arab and Islamic interests. Barry Dunsmore, ABC News, Damascus.
The Islamic Jihad for the Liberation of Palestine, a different group, is threatening to kill the 4 professors it is apparently holding unless the Israelis release 400 Arab prisoners by the end of the week. The Israeli Prime Minister said today that releasing the Arabs would be out of the question. And there is great concern tonight for another American who has been snatched off the streets of the Middle East. The Wall Street Journal reporter Gerald Seib was one of many American reporters who had been invited to Iran, and then he was detained while he was there. As ABC's John McQuethy reports from Washington this evening, we do not know why he was picked up.
Over the last 2 weeks, about 100 Western reporters have been invited into Iran to cover the Iranian side of its war with Iraq. Most have now left, but not reporter Jerry Seib. Iranian authorities took his passport and later arrested him. The U.S. is protesting, but still doesn't know why Seib was detained.
We don't know what, if any, charges have been levied against him.
Executives of the Wall Street Journal today spent an hour with Secretary of State Schultz talking about the Seib case.
Has not been seized by some mysterious, elusive band of terrorists, but by the government of Iran, and we believe that a dreadful mistake has been made in their detention of him.
At about the time Seib was arrested, there was an Iranian news agency dispatch claiming someone posing as a reporter had been arrested on charges of spying for Israel, entering Iran on a false passport. U.S. officials say they hope the dispatch was not referring to Saib, who has a valid American passport, is a practicing journalist of long standing, and happens to be a Roman Catholic. Still, there is concern tonight that Jerry Saib may be a new kind of hostage in Iran, a country that has a long record of grabbing Americans when it suits its interests. John McWethy, ABC News, the State Department.
In tonight's Money Matters, a question: should Congress and top federal officials get a pay raise? A congressional panel today heard arguments on both sides. The former Chief Justice Warren Burger said yes, a raise is needed to attract top people to government service. Ralph Nader said no, calling any increase an insult to many qualified Americans. The Senate has actually voted against a pay raise, but unless the House votes by tomorrow night to reject the raise, it will take effect. A new proposal from the Justice Department could make it easier for consumers to have a number of new services like electronic mail or computerized yellow pages at home via the phone system. The Justice Department recommended today that the 7 regional Bell companies be allowed to manufacture telephones and other information services as a way to increase competition. When AT&T was broken up 3 years ago, the local companies were barred from any of those areas. And finally, the stock market. After a record January, the stock market continued its climb today. The Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 21 points, and the trading was heavy. In our next segment, the discrimination, which always seems to go with AIDS. The top medical officer at the Federal Aviation Administration was reassigned today amid criticism that he had certified pilots who were medically unfit to fly. Dr. Frank Austin, Jr. was reassigned to another FAA office. In Boston today, they opened a place for some very sick children who have no place else to go. The Boston City Hospital facility will provide care for children who suffer from AIDS. Children will only stay there while their parents are taught to care for them at home. Well, the new facility is important because AIDS patients, even the very young ones, are unwelcome in most other places. And as you were going to discover in a report we have tonight, you don't have to have AIDS to suffer AIDS discrimination. Our chief correspondent, Richard Threlkeld, is on special assignment.
Atlanta, a passenger is forcibly removed from an airliner when the flight crew discovers he has AIDS. Indianapolis, a court tells this divorced father he can no longer visit his children. He has AIDS. New York, a 7-year-old girl is expelled from this private school because her mother's boyfriend may have been exposed to AIDS. True stories, and by no means exceptional. America's AIDS epidemic has spawned an awful new strain of intolerance. And a new class of victims, like Jim Katz, a surgical technician who lost his job at a Florida hospital when they learned he'd tested positive for AIDS, even though, like 1.5 million other AIDS carriers, he doesn't have AIDS and stands only a 1 in 5 chance of ever getting it.
I tried to kill myself during that period, and it was 4 months without work. And like I said, if it wasn't for really good friends that helped me through that, I wouldn't have made it.
Or David Holbert. He doesn't have AIDS. He's perfectly healthy. But when he applied for medical insurance, he was told to answer a special set of health questions required of single men who do non-physical work.